When it comes to romantic relationships, whether they're new or old, we know there are lots of factors that play into how these relationships develop or end. And one we're diving into this morning is a concept called attachment styles. And here to help us understand it all is mental health counselor Rachel Frank. Welcome back.
Thank you. Hello.
Hello. So what does the term attachment mean exactly? I feel like we should start there.
Yeah, good place to start.
Okay.
There's a lot of definitions, but the way I condense it for a lot of my clients is it's the emotional bond between starting out parent and child. So ultimately, this emotional bond has a huge impact on not only emotional development, but social development, not childhood, but years to come into adulthood. So it has a way, especially as we talk about romantic relationships today.
Right.
It's going to be one where it helps us resolve conflict with partners and self, regulate our emotions, and then in addition to that, it's this kind of complex way of how do I regulate my emotions and be able to communicate my needs effectively.
Right, and I guess it's important then to kind of know your own attachment style, which we're getting into.
Yeah.
There's 3, so walk me through the first one we have on here, anxious.
Yeah, so in popular psychology terms, we do focus on the 3. There are technically 4, but we're going to talk about the 3 for time's sake today. So anxious attachment, so this is an individual who we may know as having maybe grown up with like a helicopter parent. And I think we're all familiar with that term where a little bit of hovering and a little bit of the world is a dangerous place. So we in turn might learn that, okay, I don't know how to emotionally regulate effectively or communicate those needs effectively if I've taken care of this caregiver over time. So ultimately with a partner, the way that looks is you might have more needs, you might need more reassurance and validation in the relationship. This might even in turn look a little bit like an over-texter.
Ooh,
yeah.
Okay.
And we can be
triple
guilty of that.
texting? Yes.
Yeah.
Got it.
There's kind of the association with a big fear of abandonment in relationships.
Yeah, and that makes sense. And you have avoidant as the second one.
Yeah. So an avoidant attachment then, in contrast, is I really value my independence. So you may have had a caregiver who may not have made a lot of room for your emotions, so you did a lot of stuffing as a child, and that was probably what was modeled. So ultimately, you're learning that, trying not to make the association, but it's innate that it's learned over time that relationships might be associated with I'm trapped or I'm feeling suffocated, and it's difficult to show vulnerability is pretty hard.
So maybe for those people, hard to officially say you want to be in a relationship 100%. And commit and marriage and all that. Got it.
Yeah.
Secure. Now we go to the happy one.
Yes.
Secure.
Yeah, I know, the one we all strive to be.
Yes.
So I was listening to a podcast the other day that said, this is the guy you want to be. They whistle while they work. You know, they're happy-go-lucky. But
absolutely,
in reality, it's the positive one, and it's more than half the population is secure. But ultimately, I can communicate my needs effectively. I've had a caregiver who's been responsive, consistent, reliable with meeting my needs. So that's what's been modeled, and I can model that in relationships too. But in addition to that, I can let you lean on me, and I can lean on you in return. So receive and give love pretty easily.
Great. Yeah. This might be a hot take, but sometimes I feel like your attachment style, and you can be like, no, you're wrong on this, can change depending on the partner you're with. Do you think that it can? Is that true? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. And that's kind of what gives a lot of people faith that you're not locked into place. And ultimately, what we will read a lot about and what research shows is if you are with someone with a secure attachment, there tends to be a lot more healing pretty quickly. But it also is not uncommon, and we may have talked a little bit about this before in therapy with other clients of mine, but it's the lean in, lean out, or push-pull, where an anxious attachment and an avoidant attachment tend to be drawn to one another.
I've heard that.
Yeah. So it really is common because it's what's familiar and how you receive and give love from caregiver to child. So it's what we seek out. But ultimately, it's someone who runs a little more anxious may again, be in need of validation, reassurance, and that person who runs more avoidant will be leaning out as you're asking for a little too much from me right now. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I want to talk about then practical ways to, of course, build self-awareness of one's attachment style and just, how we can help each other.
Yeah, 100% possible to regulate and to heal.
Good.
Yes.
Yay.
And you don't have to be in a relationship to do it. I should put that out there. It's all a spectrum too, and it really is like over time learning your own triggers. So I can start with the anxious attachment triggers. So you're trying to learn how ultimately to take maybe from the emphasis of this is my sense of self, this is my self-worth in my relationship, to maybe we can find other things to drive passion, creativity, and hobbies outside of the relationship. But also you have a tendency where, again, there's that mantra of if I don't hear from my partner or there's distance in the relationship, it can feel like abandonment. Right. So really trying to self-regulate and communicate needs effectively can be huge, because again, that's all part of the healing process there.
Right.
And then someone who runs more avoidant, again, in contrast, it's quite the opposite. It's taking steps toward vulnerability. So sharing small things with your partner throughout the day or with others in relationships, because attachment really is more than romantic. It's like with self, with workplace relationships, with family members, but it's also the same mantra of regulating emotions, yes, but a relationship does not mean feeling trapped or a lack of independence there.
Yeah. Gosh, so much to think about.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
You really broke it down in a really easy, digestible way, though.
Good.
So we appreciate that. Thanks for your time.
Yeah.